2022. A year with so many twos in it, you'd think that it would be full of a bunch of sequels. And while that is actually the case, I made a whole video about that in the middle of the year. What this actually means is that the year has been really good. No, really, I briefly looked over a couple of my other videos from previous years, the last handful of years of me going over, hey, here are the best anime every year. And I remembered how difficult I have found it over the last couple of years to really talk about more than like 5. But this is the first year in a reasonably long while where I thought, holy crap, we have too much. Mostly that's just been in fall, because like almost half of my list is from fall. Spoilers for the rest of this video, by the way. To the point where I honestly am worried that I'm gonna make this list and someone's gonna point out something that came out in the fall season, and they were like, oh, but this is really super good, and you need to talk about it. Why? I've been busy watching everything else. And so today, I wanted to sit down, pop on the camera, as I am wanted to do, and discuss what I think. And that's very important. What I think the best anime, the top anime for 2022 have been. If you're new here, some of the things to note is that this list is not ranked. Normally for top list of the year, I like to put everything on a fairly even playing field. They're all pretty much on par. They're all superb anime to watch from this year, with exception usually to my best anime, my personal favorite of the year. But this year, I have 2. For different reasons, and we'll get to that. But the rest of the list is unranked. Assume that they are all equally as good. We're just gonna go through them in whatever order I feel like talking about them, and that's going to be fine. And of course, again, this is my list. There will probably be things I've missed, probably things that you might think are trash. You would be wrong, but you're welcome to think that. So unless I happen to get interrupted by 2 very large words in white font with a little bit of a black drop shadow, here we are with Glass Reflections' top anime of 2022. But first, Glass Reflection would like to thank the sponsor for today's video and a lot of our videos over the past year from the good people over at Surfshark VPN. A VPN, for those who don't know, is a way to help you protect your privacy and what you view online as you surf and watch anime and videos on the web. Not only does it secure your data, encrypting it to help stop people from eavesdropping on your connection, but it also allows you to mask your location. Doing so allows you to bypass the region locking of a variety of streaming services, as not all streaming services are equal in what regions that they service. So having a VPN, like Surfshark, can help you access shows that you might not be able to otherwise. Content blocked on services such as Netflix and YouTube can be accessible simply by connecting to a local server from the country you would like to access. And of course, Surfshark is available on a variety of devices, as well as your PC, so you can stream your anime on the go if you so choose. There'll be a link and a promo code in the description where you can sign up for a percentage off, as well as an extra 3 months free, because we like you guys so much. And best of all, if you try it out, you find that it doesn't help, it's not doing what you expected, or it doesn't help you unblock the content that you wanted to unblock, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. This might be useful for some of the things on the list. I don't like mentioning streaming companies anymore, but you know who they are. So thank you very much to Surfshark for sponsoring the video. And now we can get into the anime. Starting off the list from a little bit earlier this year, Lycorus Recoil. Now, there are a number of things about this show that I liked on the onset. Mostly the character designs, how the characters interacted with one another, and just kind of the concept. I didn't think that the concept of having these teenage girls who were essentially super spy assassins would actually last very long and hold up, you know, at all under any scrutiny. And arguably to a point, it didn't. But that didn't become the enjoyment of this series for me. Where the show may have had flaws in its overall narrative and a couple of places in its settings that felt like Swiss cheese to me, it made up in spades just by the purity and the entertaining nature of its protagonists. There were several times where our characters were placed into situations that were, frankly, absurd. And I know that I feel like even myself has been overstimulated with the amount of like isekai protagonists that can do no wrong and are super powered, and suddenly placing that in a more modern and real life quote setting looks just as odd and feels just as weird. But this is definitely the type of show where if you were able to suspend your disbelief, there is a lot of fun to be had here. There were many extremely well animated scenes. These characters developed and grew over the course of the series more so than I feel like a lot of other shows do. And at the end of the day, I kept going back every single week and enjoyed myself with a smile each and every time. We're mentioning it first because I do feel like out of everything on this list, this is probably the weakest and probably also the show that a lot of people are going to look at me and be like, really? That was on your list? But I enjoyed it so much that I had to include it, and I did enjoy it even over the runner-ups that we will eventually get to. Lycorus Recoil was worth the watch. Next, Dress Up Darling. A very different show. Some people may notice that I don't actually stick to a lot of genres as far as my favorites go. I can go from weird half sci-fi fantasy-ish with superpowered characters who are assassins to cosplayers pretty quickly and easily. And that's what Dress Up Darling is about. It is a romantic comedy with a really hot cosplayer and a guy who makes doll clothing for a living. And he ends up making her clothes. And she loves the clothes. And they go out and do cosplay-related things. And they have a relationship of a sort. Anime rom-coms are always weird like that, because you never know exactly what's going to happen on the end. You never know if they're going to end by kissing, or if they're just going to be absolute degenerates and just end up holding hands after 3 seasons. Gold Star, who's been watching anime long enough to know what the hell I'm referencing there. It's nothing related to this year, don't worry about it. But because we don't know what we're getting, sometimes you just learn to enjoy what you get. You learn to enjoy the sometimes awkward situations, the scenes where our characters just blush and can't help themselves, but just kind of squee into pillows sort of moments, and enjoy the hell out of all of them. If you're looking for a good rom-com, this is probably the second best of the year. Foreshadowing for anyone that's seen other things. But of course, not everybody likes rom-coms. Sometimes you want a little bit more action. Sometimes people want to live on the edge. And occasionally, they will run on it. Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners is a show that I've already talked about at length on this channel, and honestly, talking about a show like this is half the reason why I say my list is unranked. Because otherwise, I'm sure I would get a friend of mine or so who would say, why the hell are you talking about Edge Runners so soon? It should be near the later end of the video, because obviously it's best of year, right? It's not my best of year, but of course, I totally respect why some people think it would be, because it really is that good. Edge Runners takes the somewhat main story of the game that it's somewhat tangentially related to, and turns it into a much, much more character-driven and character-focused epic that only lasts a very small amount of time with characters that we come to love, and it sucks that for a variety of reasons we're probably not getting a sequel. And also it's a prequel to a game that itself can end a multitude of different ways and probably doesn't even have its own canon ending, so good luck with that. Edge Runners exists in this cyberpunk universe where you can mod literally anything with your life, except everything that's important. But it has a leg up on the actual game for having a lot more variety than just what some people in the 80s thought cyberpunk would be like. It's been 40 years. There are different ideas, people. Let the lollies exist with guns. And if we're talking about a pure action series that likes focusing on that and having its world integrated with a large amount of cast members, Edge Runners can probably do you no wrong. And for many people, it's best of year. And I do not disagree. It's just not my best of year. Because I'm weird and also watch things like Sword Dad. Reincarnated as a sword. I did not think I was going to like when I originally got into it because, hey, I've been burned on isekai before. There's a lot of things with isekai that I have seen and I think are overdone and boring and good luck trying to get me to come back week after week after week. But Sword Dad actually accomplished this, and for that, I have to put it on the list. Sword Dad showcases a world wherein a normal, everyday Japanese guy who normally gets reincarnated into some weird fantasy world, gets reincarnated into some weird fantasy world. But this time as a sword, After becoming a superpowered sword where he gains a whole crap ton of abilities from an unreasonable amount of monsters, frankly, he ends up becoming in a situation where he needs to have a wielder so that he can actually, move, and runs into one of the best girls of the year, Fran. Fran is a cat girl who wants to do better with her life, and why not do better with a super magical sword and surrogate father figure? There's a reason why we call it Sword Dad. He's not actually her dad, but he acts like it. And for anybody that can relate to being a parental figure, it does its job very well. Yes, it has a lot of common isekai tropes. Yes, they are overpowered as hell in many situations. But regardless of that, I found myself going back purely just for, well, the interactions between the characters, first of all, and also just Fran. Fran is great. If you removed Shisho as a character and just made an isekai about Fran, honestly, I'd still watch it. It just became one of those shows that I would keep coming back to and will continue to come back to for however many seasons that exists, like Kaguya-Sama. Kaguya-Sama, Love is War, Ultra Romantic, is the, unfortunately, final season of Kaguya-Sama, Love is War. There's not a lot that I can probably say about Kaguya-Sama that'll actually sell you on it if you have not previously been sold on it in any previous year that I have talked about this franchise. It is a gag comedy anime about two characters who are so insecure about themselves that they really desperately just want the other person to confess to them. That's it. That's the show. I mean, there are other things too. There are other characters with their own romantic issues, with their own weird quirks, but largely it is one guy, one girl. They desperately love each other and have since episode 1, but they don't do anything about it. And while normally that is the conflict of a rom-com, this show turns it into literal battles of dominance over the other. And over the course of 3 seasons of this show now, my perceptions of these characters have changed. Originally, I thought that the battles between these two characters was just a massive amount of pride. Both of them are very prideful on their position, how their families might see things, or how their family acts, how they see themselves within the society that they live in, and cannot possibly imagine a world where they are the ones having to degrade themselves by having to say, I love you, to somebody else first. They want it to be said to them because they are great and they are amazing, and that's how it should work, right? It's very prideful. But I feel like by the end of season 3, I don't feel like it's a pride thing anymore. And maybe it never has been. After 3 seasons, we know these characters a lot more. I don't think that they're prideful characters. I think they're just anxious as all hell. I think that despite their positions and where they are in life and where their families are and all of the other things that are great within their lives, despite all of that, they are so self-conscious and self-deprecating that they do not see themselves worthy of being the partner to the other. And that's why neither of them confess. And I feel like that has been the actual driving force for 3 seasons, and my God, does it end well. If you watch the final episode of this show, I want you to know, shit like this is the reason why I say the ending is paramount. Because my God, that was a damn good final episode. Am I sad that there's not going to be more Kaguya-Sama after this, beyond, I don't know, maybe some side stories or stuff that existed before the final episode or anything like that? Sure, yes. It is depressing that we're not going to get any more of this. But can I fault it for what it did and how it ended? No, absolutely not. Kaguya-Sama, Ultra Romantic, is a fantastic ending to the franchise. And my God, watch it if you haven't. Because it does some things very well that I don't think others, even of its genre, are able to do. Like Gundam! Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, is a Gundam series. And I'm pausing on that purely because it doesn't, at times, feel like a Gundam series. Now, I did a video on this show not too long ago, and I briefly discussed the fact that Gundam has been around so long and has gone through so many different iterations and changes that trying to actually meld down and concisely describe what Gundam is very difficult. Because no two Gundams, besides perhaps the ones that are directly related to one another, are alike in many ways. Besides the fact that, hey, there's some kind of war, usually. There are giant mechs, and the ones piloted by the good guys are called Gundams. That's a Gundam show. And so I love the idea that the creators and the writers of Witch of Mercury looked at that and was like, okay, well, we could just do the same thing again. Let's have a bunch of young male characters deal with a variety of modern day, to the time of the show, teenaged angst, throw some battles and some screaming and some shining finger or whatever, and call it a day. But they didn't do that. They instead decided, hey, why don't we take this series in a completely different direction, while at the same time being true to a lot of things that made Gundam Gundam. And in that way, I would like to think that Witch of Mercury is probably the best Gundam that has come out since Turn A Gundam. But then again, I'm also the type of person that would say that my favorite Gundam is Turn A Gundam. There are a lot of people that like the OG. There are a lot of people that like Wing. There are people who like Seed and Seed Destiny. We don't talk to those people anymore. And I do realize that because my favorite is Turn A and has been, that my particular taste in Gundam is different than most people. But even so, I feel like Witch of Mercury has a lot of things in it that even if you've been turned off by Gundam in the past, there's probably something here for you. In fact, I almost feel like it's actually geared toward those people. It's possible that if you've been a fan of Gundam for a number of years, decades even, then you might not like Witch of Mercury at all for how different it can be at times. And I'm fine with that. If Gundam is going to survive for another decades that this franchise will exist beyond today, I'm sure, it needs to do different things every once in a while. Have the next Gundam go back to teenage edgelords piloting Gundams and mechs and making things explode. We'll be fine, and I'm sure it'll be just as good then, sure. But to have a series with these characters that have these relationships, to have a series where honestly, the fact that the mech is called a Gundam is barely even a thing, but it is probably the least Gundam that I have seen in a while, and that's why I think it is best Gundam. Maybe not as good as Turn A. I'm gonna hold going that far just now. I want a little bit of time for recency bias to wear off and to me to actually be able to look at this and actually think, yeah, no, I like this more, which I'm not at yet. We're not there yet. And it's the same reason I find like talking about the best anime of the year always a difficult thing, because recency bias is the thing. Am I more likely to give something to a show that I've been watching over the past couple of weeks because, you know, it's out in the current season? Or are we just going to be talking about Spy Family right now? Spy Family, for a lot of people, has probably been best of year. You know a year is good when there are certain shows, when there are more than like 2 or 3 shows that I can look at and be like, yeah, that's going to be best of year, only for another show to come along and me say the exact same freaking thing. Spy Family has been around since a lot earlier in this year. It has been consistently good. It is well animated. It is based on a story that does extremely well. If I am to give a negative to Spy Family at all, is that I don't think it's paced well enough to be a show that I watch from week to week. That has been my biggest problem with Spy Family. I'm actually gonna rag on Spy Family for a little bit in a video about me talking about the best anime of the year, because I already have a video talking about how much I like Spy Family. I shouldn't need to tell people that I like Spy Family. I shouldn't need to tell you that it is one of the best of the year simply because it's in this video. That being said, you should be thankful that you can watch it all in one batch now, or pretty close to it, because, you know, the rest of it is going to be ending pretty soon, and I would hope that there is going to be more Spy Family in years to come. But this has not been a show that I have enjoyed watching on a week-by-week basis, because I feel like I turn it on and I'm only watching it for 2 minutes before the ED kicks in, and I'm like, what? That's it? That's Spy Family. That has been my existence and my entertainment of watching Spy Family. I finally get back into it, and then it is over. And half the reason why it is on this list is because I am this passionate about it, my God. But we've been dragging on for a while, and we still have a couple of shows to get to. Because I can look down and I can see that I've been recording for 28 minutes. I bet if you, however, look at the length of this video, it's not going to be 28 minutes. It's probably a lot less than that. You want to know why? Let me clue you in on a little secret. We edit this shit because there are times where I do things and I'm like, we gotta cut that. And it's this self-reflection that I think is very indicative of Pochi The Rock. When I did a video on Pochi The Rock, I thought actually a lot of people were going to be like me and really enjoy it for kind of being seen, for having a level of anxiety and self-deprecation on display in anime form. And while I do feel like those people exist and did speak out in the comments and so forth, I did see a not insignificant amount of people also say they hated the show for those exact reasons. And I kind of called that. And man, is that not terrible for my self-esteem, knowing that a main character who I relate to so heavily, some people find annoying, and they don't like them. Makes me start thinking, why the hell are you watching me and my shit? Why? But I've been watching it over the course of the entire season because I relate to it so hard, because I want to see Pochi as a character do great and overcome things that I would not. Yes, I do feel like she's over-exaggerated to a point, but she is over-exaggerated enough where what she does is what I wish I could do a lot of times. I do feel like there are situations that she's put in that I could probably muscle my way through, but I will admit I would not enjoy it. There are times where she's like, oh no, I'm gonna go on stage. I can do it though by putting a box on my head. And I'm like, yes, the couple of times that I've done large presentations at cons and things, yes, I really do wish I could put a box on my head. But I didn't. Doesn't mean I didn't wish I could. And so if you're talking about the most relatable character of the entire year, for me, Pochi. But then if you're asking, why isn't it the best of year? And that's because we still have some shows to talk about. Now, as I said at the start of the video, there are 2 anime that are tied for me for best of the year. It should not be surprising what those 2 are by process of elimination. However, I will process of eliminate it even further by bringing up 2 of the honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, Mob Psycho. I haven't watched it. That's why it's an honorable mention, because I haven't watched it yet. You can revoke my anime fan card now, and I probably won't blame you, because my god, Mob Psycho seasons 1 and 2 were fan-frickin-tastic. So the fact that I haven't even watched a singular episode of this new season, probably not a good thing. I mean, it's not like it's been heavily promoted, but that's also because of the rather fourth wall breaking kind of meta stuff that a certain sushi-shaped company has done over the last year and has chosen not to give it much promotion at all. But even still, the fact that I have not watched a single episode of Mob Psycho Season 3, probably pretty bad. And instead, I watched things like Do It Yourself, which is my second honorable recommendation, because I realize that Do It Yourself is not a show that I can easily recommend to a lot of people. It is not even necessarily a cute girls do cute things show, even though that is essentially what it is. It's about a group of characters in some weird futuristic world where everything is a lot more technologically advanced than we are currently, and these characters who live in this technologically advanced world decide that they instead want to go back to their roots and make things by hand. They want to do it themselves. And if you think that joke is bad, wait till you hear the name of the main character, because my god, that is the most stupidest name for a main character for this type of show. And yet, it works somehow. But I enjoy watching that. Why have I been watching that more than Mob Psycho 3? I cannot tell you. I am a terrible anime fan. But can I redeem myself with the final 2 shows to mention in this video? No! Ha! Kidding! Let's talk about Chainsaw Man. So it should not be a surprise that Chainsaw Man rates so highly because, my god, this adaptation is great. The reason why I am not putting it as number 1 on its own will be made a little bit clearer once I get to what it's tied to, and anyone who follows me will be like, yeah, that tracks. However, it is also a thing of where Chainsaw Man ain't over. And in a very similar way to Spy Family for me, I really did hate having to watch Chainsaw Man on a weekly basis, because I would turn it on, and then it would end. And I'm like, what the hell? As an adaptation, Chainsaw Man does a lot of things brilliantly. Is it perfect? No. Many people will tell you that the manga is better. But you know, anytime someone says, just go read the manga because it's better, I die a little inside. Because I hear it a million billion times every single year and have probably for longer than you have been alive. And I'm old, so that is not hyperbole. But Chainsaw Man is probably, unarguably, one of the best animated shows of this year, barring some 3D stuff that even I hate. It contains some of the best characters, some of the best scenes and plots, unarguably the best OP of the damn year, and if anybody tries to argue otherwise, I think they're just plain wrong. There are some really great OPs of the year, not gonna lie, but nothing really holds a candle to Chainsaw Man, and I'm gonna be extremely depressed whenever a new season comes out and they change it, because inevitably they will, of course. Before Chainsaw Man came out, even at the pure announcement of this adaptation, so many people, myself included, called this as being Anime of the Year. I don't think we were wrong. Unfortunately for me, this is also the year where we saw the release of Maiden Abyss. If you have watched me for any length of time, you've probably heard me say at some point in time that Maiden Abyss is my favorite anime of all time. So it should not, at any point in time, come as a surprise that I would also put Chainsaw Man alongside the latest season of Maiden Abyss for my favorite anime of this year. Not everybody watched it. Not a lot of people care. And you know, that happens to be kind of a regular thing for my picks of anime of the year. I remember when I picked Yudu Camp and everyone was just like, okay, well that's like your opinion, but you're wrong. And to them I say, no you! So let me explain very briefly why I love Maiden Abyss so much, and why it's very hard to sometimes make these lists, is because we watch anime for entertainment. A lot of people watch anime for entertainment. I, in some way, shape, or form, do watch anime as a job, but it is one of those things where if an anime is not entertaining, if it does not provide something of an experience for me, then why am I doing it? And a lot of times, I can say that watching Maiden Abyss is not enjoyable, because from an emotional standpoint, it's not. Maiden Abyss is not a series that is happy-go-lucky at all times, but it does offer an experience in a visual medium with voice actors, with brilliant music, with stunning visuals that I don't feel I can get anywhere else. Chainsaw Man is the type of show that literally is what it says on the tin. It will kill your attention with a chainsaw. It is fast, it is violent, it is visceral. Maiden Abyss is like water torture. You have those first little bits that fall on you and you're like, this ain't so bad. And then you're there for a long time. And at the end of it, everything starts to hurt. It's a slow, subtle pain. But my God, is it not an experience, and one that I would not trade for anything else. If you made me choose between Chainsaw Man and Maiden Abyss for Anime of the Year, it's Maiden Abyss. But because I don't like doing that, and my God, is Chainsaw Man so fucking good, I have to put them tied. If you watch only 2 anime this year, watch Chainsaw Man. Also go read Chainsaw Man, but watch Chainsaw Man and watch Maiden Abyss. You don't necessarily need to also read Maiden Abyss, because there's not much after what we've adapted. Literally, there's only like 4 chapters. I can't remember if a new chapter was released since the last time I checked them. But if you can only watch 2, watch those 2. If you can watch more, pick literally everything else from the list, including Mob Psycho, even though I haven't done that yet. But it is on the to-do list. I'm not saying I didn't watch Mob Psycho because it's bad. I'm saying I just haven't had time to get to it, and I already know it's good, so I didn't need to watch it to find out if it was good or not. I already know. It's great. And so here at Glass Reflection, we would like to award both Chainsaw Man and Maiden Abyss Season 2 with the best anime of the year for 2022. And then suddenly make me realize that 2023 has a lot to live up to. Yes, we're probably going to get a bunch of sequels. Yes, some shows are going to get continuations. And so I know that it's already going to be a good year. But will it be a great year? Will next year be even better? That's something that we're going to find out. And we will find out together as I continue making videos on all of the content that ends up coming out as it does. So thank you for watching the video. Hopefully, 1 or 2 of these shows are shows that you have overlooked or missed over the past year, and you have the time to go and actually catch up and watch them. And if you do so, let me know. I'm always happy to learn when I'm able to turn people on things that they would have missed otherwise. It actually makes me feel very fulfilled in my life, and sometimes I need that. And lastly, a very special thank you to my patrons who make it possible for me to do this and give me the ability to feed myself and continue recommending anime on a regular basis. If you are a patron, thank you very much. And if you're not a patron, there will be a link down in the description to join up and support if you so choose. And of course, a very special thank you to those patrons who help out just a little bit more. Specifically, City Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, Ross Emerson, Omar Showman, Hector Montemayor, and Wago221. For you are all especially awesome. And until next time, and until next year, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.